Still busy with that little computer project of yours? Richard Sterling's loud voice echoed across the beautiful marble terrace. His guests, all dressed in expensive clothes and sipping champagne, laughed along with him. His tone was mocking, as always. "When are you going to join a real business, son?" he added, with a smirk. I tightened my grip on my champagne glass and tried not to show any reaction as he walked over. Behind him stretched the perfectly cut lawn of his massive estate in the Hamptons, yet another reminder of how wealthy and powerful he was. "My software company is actually doing quite well," I said calmly. "We landed a few important contracts this quarter." Richard let out a sharp, sarcastic laugh. "Contracts with who?" "A few local cafes and startups." He slapped my shoulder hard, making me step back a little. "Look around you, Alex. This is what real success looks like." My full name is Alexander Foster, but to the people in Richard's world, I'm mostly known as Sarah Sterling's husband, or sometimes, Richard's son-in-law. I'm 32 years old, and I started my company, Quantum Solutions, from scratch. I used my skills in coding and cybersecurity to build a team, and now we were finally getting noticed in the tech world. But to Richard, none of that mattered. In his eyes, I was still just a scholarship kid who wasn't good enough for his daughter. "Dad, please," Sarah said gently, stepping beside me. Her voice was soft but firm. She had learned how to handle him over our 5 years of marriage. "It's your birthday. Let's not turn this into a business meeting." Richard waved her off. "I'm just trying to help him, princess. Someone has to teach him how the real world works." He looked me in the eye. "The offer still stands, Alex. Come join Sterling Enterprises. We always need someone in IT." As if my job was just about fixing printers and turning computers off and on. I started to reply, but Sarah lightly squeezed my arm. We'd had this argument too many times. There was no point. Richard didn't listen to facts. The only thing he understood was power, big numbers, big buildings, big empires. "I appreciate it," I said instead, raising my glass, "but I'm happy where I am." "Your loss," he said with a shrug, already turning to talk to someone else. "Just don't come running to me when your little startup falls apart." Sarah leaned closer and whispered, "I'm sorry, you know how he gets at these parties." I nodded. "Yeah, it's fine." We both knew it wasn't fine. Every family event was a chance for Richard to remind me that I wasn't part of his world, that I didn't belong. Sarah looked like she wanted to stay, but I nodded toward her mom, who had been waving from across the terrace. "Go," I said, "she's been trying to get your attention." "You sure?" I smiled. "I'll check some emails." She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek and walked away, instantly slipping into the role of the perfect socialite. It amazed me how she could live in both of our worlds so effortlessly, mine with my small tech team, and her father's with his billion-dollar empire. I found a quiet spot near the edge of the terrace and pulled out my phone. There were a few messages from Marcus, my lead developer, all marked urgent. "Boss, you need to see this. Google just responded to our proposal." My heart jumped. We had been in talks with Google's cloud division for months. If this was real, it could change everything. I opened the attached document with shaking hands. As I read through the email, I couldn't hear the music or the clinking glasses around me anymore. Everything faded away. The message was clear. Google didn't just want to use our security protocol, they wanted to integrate it across their entire cloud platform. The deal was huge, far bigger than we had hoped for. I immediately texted Marcus. "Call me ASAP." He called within seconds. "This is real, right?" I asked the moment I answered. "You verified it?" "Triple-checked," Marcus said, sounding as excited as I felt. "Their legal team already sent the first draft of the contract. They want to move fast." "How fast?" "They want a public announcement next week, full press release, joint statement. You'll need to fly to Mountain View to sign the final agreement." I let out a long breath. "Wow." Marcus chuckled. "That's Google. When they want something, they don't waste time." He hesitated, then added, "Also, Apple reached out. Word must have gotten out. They want to talk too." I couldn't help but smile. Richard's voice echoed in my head, "Small-time stuff." "Send me everything," I said. "And Marcus, great job." "Thanks, boss. Want me to draft a proposal for Apple?" "Not yet. Let's stay quiet for now. Things are about to get interesting." After the call, I looked back at the party. Richard was by the pool, surrounded by people, telling one of his usual business stories. He loved to brag about his deals like they were fairy tales of brilliance and power. Sarah caught my eye from across the terrace. I gave her a small nod, our signal that everything was fine. More than fine, actually. Alex, Richard called out, stop hiding and come join us. Howard was just asking about your, what do you call it, app business. I took a deep breath and walked over. Howard Turner, another wealthy guest, looked at me with polite confusion. So Richard says you do something with computers? Cybersecurity, I said. We build systems that protect cloud networks. Ah, he nodded, clearly uninterested. Very modern. Richard laughed. Alex thinks he's going to change the world with his little AI projects. How many employees now, Alex? 10, 15, 28, I replied, and we're hiring more soon. Richard turned to his guests. Did you hear that? 28 people. Meanwhile, Sterling Enterprises just opened a Tokyo office. What are we at now, Thompson? Over 10,000 worldwide, his CFO replied. Richard grinned and lifted his glass. That's real business. Scale, that's what separates the big players from the dreamers. Everyone nodded like they always did. I saw Sarah watching, clearly holding back her frustration. Actually, I said calmly, we like staying small. It helps us stay flexible and innovative. Richard gave me a fake smile. Of course, small is fine, for the little jobs. He turned back to his story about some company he bought decades ago. I'd heard it before, many times. I glanced at my phone again. Marcus had sent the latest draft of the contract. The numbers made my eyes widen. Google was valuing our technology at nearly $1 billion. Sarah appeared beside me again. Everything okay? She asked gently. You've been on your phone all evening. I looked at Richard, still bragging, and then back at her. Remember how you said to wait for the perfect moment to prove him wrong? She nodded slowly. I think it's almost here. Before she could say anything, Richard shouted again. Alex, it's my birthday, get off your phone already and join the celebration. I slipped the phone into my pocket and smiled quietly to myself. Not yet, I thought. But very soon, everything will change. The thick carpet, dark wood walls, and heavy leather furniture in Richard Sterling's study were all chosen for one reason, to intimidate. His floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city like it was his own kingdom, and at that moment, he stood with his back to me, outlined against the fiery orange glow of the sunset. He didn't turn around, didn't greet me, just made me wait. Alex, he finally said, his voice cool and casual, have a seat. I didn't sit, I stayed standing. You wanted to see me? He turned slowly, the familiar smirk on his face like always. I've been thinking about your situation, he said. Thompson, give us the room. His assistant nodded and quietly slipped out, closing the door behind him. Richard sat down in his oversized leather chair, folding his fingers like he was about to negotiate a deal with someone beneath him. I'm going to make you an offer, Alex, he said, a generous one, especially considering your circumstances. He pushed a folder across the desk toward me. Sterling Enterprises is starting a new division, he explained, Sterling Tech. We're buying up small startups and building something real in the tech space. He put extra weight on the word real. I'm offering you a junior vice president position. We'll absorb whatever your little company has and put it to use. I didn't touch the folder, and if I say no? Richard's smile faded into something harder. Then you should know I've been talking to people, investors, developers, people who could build something like your company from scratch, and do it better, with enough money. You're threatening me? I asked quietly. Threatening? He gave a fake laugh. Of course not, just a father-son chat, looking out for your future. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. The tech world is cutthroat, Alex. One wrong move, and a small company like yours could lose everything. One glitch, one bad review, clients panic, trust is lost. It's brutal out there. I felt a wave of anger rise in my chest, but I held it back. I'll think about it, I said. Don't take too long, he warned. You've got 48 hours. He stood and adjusted his suit. Let's join the ladies for dinner. And Alex, he added, his voice sharp, don't tell Sarah, she doesn't understand how real business works. I followed him out into the dining room. Sarah and her mother, Eleanor, were already sitting at the table. The room sparkled with candlelight and crystal glasses. Eleanor smiled at me, but it was a hollow smile, more habit than warmth. Alex, darling, she said sweetly, Sarah tells me your little company is doing well. Very well, I said as I sat down. In fact, I have some news. Richard's hand tightened around his wine glass. Perhaps business can wait until after dinner. Actually, I said, taking out my phone, this can't wait, the press release goes live in 3 minutes. Sarah turned to me, her eyes wide with curiosity. Even Eleanor raised her eyebrows. Press release? Richard scoffed. What could possibly? He didn't finish. Phones around the table began to chime with notifications. Sarah picked up hers first and read the headline out loud. Google acquires Quantum Solutions security protocol in billion-dollar deal, she said, AI-driven technology to be used across the Google Cloud platform. Richard's face drained of color. What? He whispered. Sarah kept reading, her voice getting stronger. Deal includes partnership for future development, with Quantum Solutions CEO Alexander Foster joining Google's advisory board. Eleanor dropped her phone, and it clattered on her plate. Richard fumbled for his, scanning the article in disbelief. This can't be right, he muttered. You're just a small operation. I said, we haven't been small for a while now. Our clients include Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, and Apple reached out this morning. Richard looked stunned, speechless. For the first time in years, he had no comeback. But the offer I just made, he started. I smiled. Google's was a bit more generous, and they don't threaten their partners. Sarah's face turned serious. Dad, she said, her voice shaking, what did you do? There was a long, heavy silence. Richard looked like he might collapse into his chair. Princess, listen, business is complicated. Sometimes you have to take bold steps. Bold steps? She repeated, her voice icy, like threatening my husband. Eleanor reached over to calm her, but Sarah pulled away. No, Mom, I want to know exactly what kind of bold steps Dad took. I pulled out my phone and played the recording I'd secretly made in his study. His voice filled the room, clear and undeniable. He spoke of destroying my company if I didn't accept his offer. Eleanor gasped. Richard went pale again. You recorded me? He croaked. Of course, I said, I've learned from the best. Always protect yourself, always have proof. Sarah stood up, her chair scraped loudly against the marble floor. I can't believe you, Dad, after all the times you mocked Alex, belittled him, tried to ruin him, this is how far you'd go? I was trying to help, he said weakly, bring him into the family business. Help? I said, you wanted to steal everything I built. You wanted to hide me in some desk job where I couldn't embarrass you. That's not true. I looked him in the eye. You spent years treating me like I wasn't good enough, but while you were laughing at my little computer project, I was building something Google just paid $1 billion for. Thompson, the CFO, had come back in silently and now stood by the door. He looked pale himself. Get out, Richard barked at him, and don't repeat a word of this. Actually, I said, Thompson should stay, he'll want to see this. I handed him another document on my phone. He read it, then looked up, stunned. Sir, he said, you should see this. Richard snatched the phone from him. What is this? A list of companies interested in our protocol. I said, look at the third one. His eyes scanned it. Sterling Enterprises? That's not possible. Your Tokyo office reached out last month. I explained. They've been dealing with serious security problems. Data leaks. Could be pretty embarrassing if it got out. Richard slammed the phone on the table. You're bluffing. I raised another email. This is from your head of Asia operations. Want me to read it out loud? Enough, he roared, standing up. I won't be threatened in my own house. Threatened? I said, calm as ever. This is just a father-son chat, remember? Looking out for your best interests. Sarah gave a bitter laugh. Eleanor looked like she might faint. What do you want? Richard finally asked. Nothing, I said honestly. I never wanted anything from you, just respect, for what I built. I stood, buttoned my jacket. The deal with Google goes public tomorrow. Reporters will be curious to hear what you think about the son-in-law you never took seriously. You wouldn't embarrass the family, Eleanor said quietly. No, Sarah said firmly, standing beside me. Dad embarrassed the family when he tried to ruin Alex's life, when he put his ego ahead of mine. Richard sat down again, shoulders slumped. For the first time, he looked old. Sarah, Princess. Don't, she cut him off. I'm not your princess, I'm a grown woman, and I'm proud of my husband. I took her hand, and together, we left Richard Sterling in the dining room, surrounded by silence, shame, and the pieces of a power he no longer had.